afternoon, students. Today, the poet that we are going to do is John Donne. When we talk about John Donne, he was a famous English poet, satirist, lawyer also, and a priest of his time. Okay, he is best remembered as the founder of Metaphysical School of Poetry, but he was also one of the foremost preacher of his time in the whole of England. Okay, for his journey from a simple person to a preacher, all that journey we are going to discuss it today. Okay, so when we talk about John Donne, he was born into a very recusant Roman Catholic family. Okay, and when we talk about Roman Catholicism, okay, so Roman Catholicism, it was an illegal religion at that time in England. Okay, because of the coming of Protestantism. Okay, Protestants, because the descendant of Protestant, it was there in the time of Queen Elizabeth I. So this religion, Roman Catholic, it was considered an illegal religion at that time. So John Donne, he was born on 22nd January 1573 in London. Okay, so 1572, it is few years after Shakespeare was born. Even you can say 8 years after Shakespeare was born. Okay, so he was the son of John Donne and Elizabeth Heywood. Okay, so these are the name of parents. Okay, so yes, as we have talked about this thing, that his father, his name was John Donne. Okay, he was the warden of ironmongers company, and he was practicing Roman Catholicism at that time. As I have said that adherence to this religion, it was a punishable offense at that time. Okay, and his mother, she was Elizabeth Heywood. She was also a person who was practicing Roman Catholic religion. Okay, she belongs to the Roman Catholic family. Okay, and she was the writer of a very reputed playwright, John Heywood. Okay, if you are if the time permits, if you interested in literature, do read the poets and the writers of Elizabethan period and the period of age of revival. Definitely read it. Okay, so since we are not going into the age of the writer, rather we are discussing the biography of the poet. Okay, so if you want to read the age or the previous age or the writers, if you want to know, if you want to gain knowledge, you definitely should read all these details, because we have very limited time, so we are only discussing the biography of the poet here. Okay, so yes, so yes, what we were talking, his mother, she was Elizabeth Heywood. Okay, and he had siblings also. There was a brother whose name was Henry, and there were two sisters, Mary and Catherine. Okay, so when he was only 15, he was only 4, his father died suddenly, and his mother, she remarried. Okay, to a very wealthy widower with 3 children. Okay, within a very few months of his first husband's death. Okay, so this young John Donne, he was raised by his mother and stepfather. Okay, so so when he was 11, okay, in 1583, you can say, he was admitted to Hart Hall. Okay, now this is Hertford College. Okay, University of Oxford, Hertford College, and there he studied for like 3 years, and then he shifted to University of Cambridge, where he has studied for more than 3 years. Okay, so this was the time when he received his degree. Okay, this was the time when we talk about that time. At that time, in order to receive degree, all these graduate students, they have to take this oath of supremacy. Okay, and he was a Roman Catholic. Okay, he refused to take any such kind of oath, and the consequences of that was that he did not receive his degree. Okay, so after 1591 he entered the Thevisin to become trained as a barrister. Okay, so many people, they are doing this barrister. Every man who want a public life, they study law at that time. So John Donne was not any different from uh, those people. Okay, so yes, he started practicing barrister there. He started studying law. Okay, um, yes, one thing also, his brother, he got imprisoned for Catholicism in 1593. Okay, so this was the thing. Now after that, um, okay, okay, so 1592, then we will come to know about 1592. He was admitted to Lincoln's Inn. It was one of the inns of court in London. Okay, and all professionals, they practiced, barristers, they practiced there in England and Wales. Okay, so by that time he had inherited very considerable fortune. Okay, so instead of practicing and doing things, what he has done, he spent all his wealth on women, literature, and traveling. Okay, so he become a extravagant person. Okay, so this was the thing he has done at that time with his wealth. Okay, now he started traveling with Earl of Essex and Walter Raleigh on colonial mission. This was the time of late 1590. Okay, so women, literature, and traveling, this was the thing that he was doing at this time period, wasting his money like that. Okay, so uh, he was barely 20 years old when he converted himself to Anglican religion. Okay, and this was the reason was, see, as we have seen this in 1593, his brother Henry, who was a university student, he was arrested for practicing the Catholic religion, and he was lodged in Newgate prison, where he died of bubonic plague. Okay, so this incident, it just shook John Donne's conviction in Roman Catholicism. So this was the reason that he converted. Okay, so yeah, after that, as I have said, he traveled across Europe, witnessing some wars, then traveling all over. So he returned to England in 1598, and he was then 25 years old. Okay, he was just preparing for a diplomatic career. Okay, at that very age, he was appointed as the chief secretary to Lord Keeper of the Great Seal. So this was a very good position. Okay, so this was a very good position. Lord Keeper of the Seal, he was secretary to Thomas Egerton. Okay, so he was very influential man. Okay, Thomas Egerton, he was very influential kind of man. Okay, so he started this can be a possibility, since he become an Anglican, he has received this kind of position, but yes, he started living in Egerton's London home, York House. Okay, and yes, of course, although he was a servant, he was only secretary to the Lord Keeper of Seal, but he wasn't treated as a servant, but more as a friend. Now what has happened, it is here when John Donne, he met Annie More. Okay, who was Annie More? Annie More was daughter of George Moore. Okay, and she was niece to Lady Egerton. Okay, and he fall in love with her, and they know that there is very little chance of getting her father blessing. There was little chance of getting married. So what they have done, they secretly got married in December 1601. Okay, and yes, what would have happened? George Moore, he become enraged. He was angry, and he makes sure that Dunn he should lost his position as the chief secretary under Sir Egerton. Okay, and he was not satisfied with only taking his position, making him financially weak. He was not very satisfied with that. What he has done, he has thrown him to the notorious Fleet prison. Okay, he has just thrown him into this jail, this prison. Okay, and the priest and witness whoever have witnessed that marriage, they were also put under arrest. Okay, so later it was proved that marriage was legally valid because they have married legally. Okay, so yes, definitely these priests and witness, they were released, also John Donne. But yes, Dunn was very now was without any kind of job, and there was the financial constraint he was facing. Okay, and there was very little scope of him to get any kind of any other job. Okay, so his financial position, it became very precarious. Okay, okay, at this time his wife's cousin Sir Francis Woolley, he provided him with some accommodation. Okay, 1602, by 1602 he was elected as member of parliament. Okay, but this was not a paid position, so yes, financial condition, it does not improve very much. Now, so in 1605 they moved to London, and he started practicing, working as a lawyer, earning a very meager kind of income. Still they were fighting poverty. Okay, but in such a financial misery, he continued to write theology, canon law, anti-Catholic Pauline. In 1610 he published his anti-Catholic Pauline, Pseudo-Matriar. It was very famous. Okay, so this was the time when he also composed this love lyrics, religious poetry, complimentary, funerary verses. Okay, so he has made many friends, who they have urged him to take the holy order in the Church of England. Okay, but yes, he continued to look for a very secure job or secure employment. So 1608, by 1608 the condition, it becomes so bad that he even tried to take his own life. Okay, but yes, it was a failed attempt, and instead of dying, he wrote a very famous poem, Bathanatus. Okay, a work in which he defeated suicide. Okay, so this is very ironical, but anyway, so fortunately what was the thing was that good time, it wasn't far away. So in 1609, Annie's father, he finally relented, and they provide him with some dowry. Okay, and there was the succession of King James I of Scotland at the throne of England. So the poetry, it became a fashion. So John Donne, he just seized the opportunity and began to write poetry for wealthy friends and patrons. Okay, now, so as we know, in 1610 he published his first anti-Catholic polemic. Okay, in which he established that Roman Catholic could support King James I without compromising their religious loyalty to the Pope. So obviously he was a opportunity seeker, right? So this poem, it has won him king's favor and also patronage from many prominent personalities. Okay, and one such personality, it was Robert Drury. Okay, and he was very impressed by his talent, and he became Donne's chief patron. Okay, so following year he took him into tour to Europe. Okay, and when they returned, he provided Donne with with an apartment in his large house. Okay, now he's trying to get a place in court. Definitely King James I appreciate his poetries, but he refused to give him any kind of place. Okay, and yes, he again urges him to take the holy order, which finally in January 23, 1615, John Donne, he ordinated as a priest. Okay, and he became a priest. So soon he was made the royal champion at the command of the king. And same year, Cambridge University, Cambridge University confirmed and conferred on him the degree of Doctor of Divinity. So this was a very decent degree. Okay, and 1616 he was made a reader at Divinity at Lincoln's Inn. Okay, but what has happened in 1617? His wife died, okay, giving birth to his 12th child. Okay, and yes, it has shocked him so deeply and emotionally, because he has lost his emotional anchor. Okay, so yes, so what he done in 1618, he became chaplain to James Hay, that was a Wilscott Doncaster. Okay, and when he was sent to Germany, John Donne also accompanied him. Okay, so they returned to England in 1620. So this is not very important. Okay, so on 22nd November 1621, John Donne, he was made Dean of St. Paul. This was a position which he held until his death. Okay, so this is not only one of the most prestigious position under the Church of England, but also very well paying. Okay, and he carried out his duty with very efficiency and integrity. Okay, he started giving sermons, preaching at this time, and his sermons, they attracted wide range of audience, and he become one very famous, very known foremost preacher of his time. You can say he was one of the foremost preacher. Okay, along with his holy duties, he continued with his writing. 1623, John Donne, he became very ill. Okay, from his sick bed he began to contemplate the relationship between physical and spiritual sickness. Okay, so what he has done, he just culminated into series of prose converting death, rebirth and concept of sickness as a visit from God. Again he started establishing or contemplating a relationship between physical and spiritual sickness. So this writing, this prose, they were cultivated in 1624 and published as a devotion upon emergent occasion. Okay, so throughout his life, John Donne continued giving sermons. See, 160 of which survive today. Among these, the famous one were Death Duel, a consolation of the soul against the dying life and living death of the body. Okay, so this famous one, it was delivered before Charles I in February 1631, shortly before his death. Okay, so these was the thing. These were some of the famous works. And yes, he is the prime, you can say, inventor of metaphysical poems. Okay, what is metaphysical poetry? Metaphysical poetry, this was a term which was, usually it was by a critic, Samuel Johnson. He has used this term to describe a group of 17th century English poets, okay, whose works were characterized by the inventive use of conceit. Okay, they used to use conceit in their poems. So conceit होता क्या है? Conceit क्या है? Conceit, सबसे पहली बात, conceit, it is very difficult to create a conceit. Conceit क्या होता है कि there it is a kind of comparison between two apparently dissimilar or in different kind of object or situation. We try to form a very you can say parallel between a very dissimilar kind of objects or situation. Okay, so so conceit is basically a kind of comparison. See, when we talk about comparison, whenever we try to compare two objects, we usually use a simile or a metaphor. You know that. Okay, simile is basically when you try to compare two objects with the words like and as. Okay, and metaphor is when you try to directly compare an object, you directly compare it without using any kind of words. You do a direct comparison. So conceit is, you can say, extended metaphor when you try to compare very dissimilar kind of object and situation with each other. Okay, so this is conceit. Okay, the example we are going to take, when we are reading the valediction, because valediction, it has the conceit, full of conceit. John Donne, where we are just taking an example, where John Donne, he tried to compare two souls, okay, two lovers' souls with compass. Okay, what he said, two how lovers are, they are two, just like the twin compass. So he is, in a way, he's comparing the lovers with compass. Okay, the legs of compass. Okay, he's just comparing both lover with those two legs. Okay, so this is a far-fetched or extended metaphor. So this is the metaphor, this is the conceit for which John Donne is very famous. Okay, so as I was saying, Samuel Johnson, he used to describe these English poets who were characterized by the use of conceit, okay, and their emphasis on the spoken. Okay, emphasis जो था उनका unspoken था, rather than lyrical quality of their verses. Okay, and at that time Samuel Johnson has used it in a very critique form. He do not appreciate the way of writing of these poets. Okay, he has written used this term metaphysical in a very criticizing way. Okay, so this was the thing. It was 20th century when the famous writer T.S. Eliot, he has written much to establish the importance of metaphysical school. Okay, both writing through his critical writing, and also applying the same method, same metaphysical method of writing in his own words. Okay, so the value of this metaphysical poetry, it was established, or the importance, it was established in the course of 1920. Okay, before that they were treated in a very what you can say, very criticized way. They were very criticized. Okay, so they were very isolated. They do not have that kind of recognition at that time. Okay, so yes, there is the division of his poetry: amorist poetry, metaphysical, and satiristical. Okay, so he has given the famous definition where he has divided sensual love and platonic love. Okay, so for real type of love, he said he choose spiritual love over physical love. Okay, so how that is, we are going to study in the poem. So this was the thing. I guess I forget to tell you about when he actually died. Okay, let me tell you that. So yes, wait, just wait. So he died on 31st March 1631. Okay, so this was the thing. So let's